Finally, it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, back with another video. I took a little bit of a break. I wasn't posting as many of these. Of course, there hasn't been a lot of cars that have come up for sale specific to the 60s, but rest assured, let's jump right in. This is just going to be a YouTube video. I won't post this to the podcast platform, but remember, you can visit LincolnAddict.com or search Lincoln Addict via any podcast app for ways to listen to the free podcast. This is a 26-year owned 65 Lincoln Continental convertible. This won't be as deep of a dive as I sometimes go. What I'd like to reinforce is obviously the individual has owned this car longer than a quarter century. It's 65, which is a highly desirable year. There's always going to be folks that maybe like the 1s, 2s, or 3s more, maybe the 64, maybe the 65, or even the 66 and up. However, rest assured, people do, for the most part, love 65. It has the unique one-year-only front grille. Of course, the grille does change each year, but the big noticeable change here over 64 is you have the turn signal that is now in the front fender, right? So the right and left fender. That's kind of one of the bigger changes. Some folks say that this grille kind of reminds them of a Mercury or different other makes, if you will, but certainly that's going to be preference. The other big thing here is it's black. So many folks, whether you love it or not, they love black Lincolns. And I think this one definitely has a nice color interior, which is red. I own a 65 red Fiesta red Lincoln, and it has red interior, and the red interior does really stand out. I'm going to try to really keep this high level. Here's what I would say. Again, you have ownership that's had this one a while. The gentleman does post, there's some receipts, not high ticket receipts. I think like maybe the tires were the higher ticket item, but there are some receipts to kind of back up some of the funds that have been put into this car. What we will see here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to zoom. Let me see. Let me try to zoom in here a little bit. I got this trackpad and it's not always easy. Okay, so basically you do have a couple of features that we can see here. It is an air-conditioned car, which we'll see, of course, under the hood as well. Non-AC cars did not have the vents here. It also has the speed control, which we now call cruise control. So that's listed, or that's here in the lower dash. We also see the Electronic Eye, which is known as the automatic headlight dimmer. For those that did not know, that's what sits right there on the dash if a car has it. Many cars don't, but certainly, this is a talking point for a lot of folks. We can see here it does have some sort of receiver head unit, if you will, that's mounted under the dash. This is something you don't typically see in this era, but certainly back in the 90s and early 2000s when folks said, hey, I want to put a CD player in my car. I love that it's not installed here, which in these years you really couldn't do it. But in some older cars, you'll see this kind of CD head unit, right in this elegant dash. And the good thing that I would see is you would either see it under the dash or many times, or oftentimes rather, in the glove box. So that can certainly be uninstalled. You could either just use the regular radio, or in my case, you could always go and just kind of install some sort of Bluetooth device where you don't even really need a head unit anymore. Again, we can see it's an AC car. We can see it does have the fan shroud, which is going to be key. That's going to be, the AC cars will have the fan shroud, and then the clutch fan. We do see it has the single pot, if you will, or single reservoir, and it also has a battery switch. So you can easily flip this back and forth to cut the power to the car. That's going to be key for really any older car. It helps kind of with that vampire draining the battery, if you will, the little draw that some of these cars will have. Certainly the Lincolns do. Of course, it has the factory 430. The one thing I would say here is we don't have a lot of photos underneath the car, and unfortunately, I'm doing this review a little bit late, so many of you probably won't see this by the time it ends, but I'll try to get it up by then. But if you look here, this is really one of the only photos that we get of the undercarriage, and of course, it's the front kneeling down. You see the oil pan. From what we can see here, though, it is pretty clean. You are typically going to see, a little bit of drippage here. With these cars, they do tend to leak, and this one's a lot cleaner than most. So if there's any indication here, I would say it does look pretty good, but I would want to see more photos. This front cross member, you could see a little something here. Typically over the course of time, these will get, depends where the car's at, these will get a little nasty. But you always want to just double check there's no kind of major rust. Of course, I always preach that. Bring and Trailer does a great job breaking down this particular car. It's a 32 DSO, or district ordering, or district sales office, if you will. So that is kind of in that Midwest area. Hopefully, obviously, this car would have been presumably taken well care of. December 5th, so December 5th of 1964 for that 65 model year would have been the build date. There are a couple of videos. If you're interested, you can kind of watch those. Again, this is key, and we'll see people ask for this in the comments. So like my whole thing is, try to, if you're going to sell a car, try to provide that before people ask. And that's, something I really try to preach here. Again, I don't want to spend a ton of time, because I know some of these videos tend to get long, but you can imagine a car that's either been repainted 30 plus years ago or that's original. It's going to have some small blemishes, but I think by me quickly scanning these photos, the paint doesn't look too bad. Again, there are some areas where it's not perfect. I would assume someone would drive this car a little while, enjoy it, and then maybe repaint it down the road at some point. What you can see, though, is you can see the dings and dents. You've got one here, although he does provide in the comments and the photos as well that he's going to include, I think, 2 rear bumper ends that were already re-chromed, which is great. We can see that there is a dent in here. I do sell kind of replicate bumper inserts for 64 and 65. These, of course, have this kind of line pattern. So they are 1 year specific, but you can see a ding or dent here, and that, for some people would be, something that they would want to change out. You can sometimes find the usual suspects, like Lincoln Land will sometimes have a good original set, but they do bolt in from the back. Again, you can see the interior. I love 65 interior. One of the other things that's kind of a standout is you have this seat insert, as I refer to it as. That's a 1 year only piece and has that Lincoln logo in it. It's kind of, instead of being vertical up and down, it's horizontal there, you can see. And again, the interior, it looks like they did kind of wipe it down. Hopefully it is either the original leather or it's been redone in leather. I know there's often kind of questions on, hey, is it vinyl and that type of thing, but it's sometimes not easy to tell in the photos. They do provide some some detail photos, and you can kind of see here with the light hitting it, and this can happen with any kind of older car. You can see there's definitely some imperfections here, and the only way to really go, and if this drives you crazy, is you have to get this stuff re-chromed. I use Advanced Plating in Tennessee. They're arguably the best in the business, best in the world for stuff that I get done these days, which is kind of rare, but certainly what they're showing you is things are not perfect. These cages, if you will, again, 64, 65 only front and rear. You can sometimes, get a hold of an NOS a piece, which is new old stock, sometimes on eBay, sometimes from Lincoln Land, sometimes from some of the other usual suspects, as we call them. But, basically, like, this car is probably a car that's going to appeal to a lot of people. It's not perfect, and that's okay. And I think the key thing there is it will allow for someone to go and get into a car at an affordable rate and then be able to do some things that they want to do to it. We can see this was an option, and it might have been with the red interior. I think this was maybe not an option, but a lot of folks assume, I don't know if you can see where my mouse is at, but they assume that these are always stainless, and they're not. These are color matched to the interior. We can see an aftermarket speaker. Again, this could be taken out, and it's kind of hard to tell what this is. I don't know, and there may have been a comment that I missed, somebody asking. I don't know if that's like an aftermarket cruise control, or if that's some sort of remote thing for the stereo to change without having to lean forward. it's definitely something that I've never seen. So kind of odd there. But regardless, I think this car, from what we can see, it has pretty good bones. I'm a big fan of the red interior. I know not everybody is, but certainly I think it's pretty awesome. It's an AC car. It's got some room for improvement. Obviously, someone could get into this car and, change up some of the radio stuff, maybe do a dual reservoir on the master cylinder, which we can see right here. And right here is the speed control. Now, I know there's a lot of bone of contention. People say, well, you really can't fit a dual reservoir if you have the speed control, which is kind of, again, what I said earlier, we refer to now as cruise control. But certainly, I think people have figured that out, and they've made the room and they've made it happen. So I think that is possible. You just have to kind of find the right mechanic shop. Brake reservoirs, there's different sizes now and stuff as well. And then here you can see the bumper ends. These bumper ends can easily go from $100 to $300 non-chromed. So, to be able to get two bumper ends that are re-chromed is pretty great. Let me know what you think. With this one being at $40,000 with only 4.5 hours left, my gut feeling is it's not going to go over 55. I think it easily could, because these cars are getting harder to find. But my gut feeling right now is going to be, anywhere from 48 to 53,000. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks, and stay on the rise.